Very good afternoon to all of you virtually present here. I am Dr. Sumant Swain, Deputy Director, Eurasian Foundation, India. This year is being marked as a great year for both India and Russia to celebrate 50th anniversary of the Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation between India and the Soviet Union. The importance of this treaty was very significant considering the regional and international security scenario. During this period, Bangladesh War 1971 and USA, Pakistan and China nexus disturbed the entire regional security architecture. During this difficult period, the treaty was signed between the the Prime Minister of India, Srimati Indira Gandhi, with the Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev on August 9, 1971. Since then, our relationship has been very close, and now we reached at the state of special privileged strategic partnership level. We have a very close relationship, and it's a good relationship. We maintain the good relationship compared to any other countries. On this great occasion, I am delighted to warmly welcome to all our delegates on behalf of the Eurasian Foundation India, University of Mumbai, Indian Center Institute of Oriental Studies, Moscow Academy of Sciences, Russia, Lipstick State Pedagogical Sankey University, Lipstick, Russian Center of Science and Culture, New Delhi, and Center for Third Voice Studies, India, to be inaugural this inaugural session and the first day of this Indo-Russian Young Scholars International Conference 2021. I heartily warm welcome to His Excellency Ambassador B.V. Venkatesh Varma, Ambassador of India to the Russian Federation, Moscow, for sending conferences messages. Despite his busy engagements, he was initially agreed to come to this conference, but due to this urgency and some bilateral bilateral discussions today, he is unable to come to this conferences and already sent the conference messages to us. We are really indebted honor for his support and encouragements. I extend my second warm welcome to His Excellency Nikolay Kudashev, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, Embassy of the Russian Federation in the Republic of India. Due to his urgent engagement, he has sent his senior counselor, Mr. Mikhail Kitrutov, who will be present here. Welcome to you, Mr. Mikhail Kitrutov, to these conferences. I am also privileged to welcome Professor R.G. Gidadhubli, the founding director of and Adjunct Professor, Center for Central Eurasian Studies, University of Mumbai, Maharashtra, India. We are really great and honored for his presence. He is the senior academician in the Eurasian regions. I am also extremely happy to welcome Mr. Fedor Rozhevsky, Director, Russian Center of Science and Culture, New Delhi, India. Your Excellency, you are welcome to this conference, sir. I extend my cordial welcome to Professor Archana Upadhyaya, Chairperson, Center for Russian and Central Asian Studies, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, India. I am happy to warm welcome to Professor Sanjay Deshpande, Director, Center for Central Eurasian Studies, University of Mumbai, Maharashtra. We are indebted to him. He helped lots of help for this organizing this conference, and also he is a part of this conference. Welcome to you, Sanjay Deshpande, sir. I am delighted to welcome Professor Tatiyana Shauman, Head the Center for Indian Studies, Institute of Oriental Studies, Russian Academy of Sciences, Moscow. I also extend my warm welcome to our President, Ms. Namita Mohanty, of the Eurasian Foundation, to these conferences. Of course, young minds and thoughts will be contributed to strengthen our next generation bilateral relationship. Our efforts is to bring all the young minds of India and Russia into a single platform and listen their thoughts and aspirations on this great occasion, which will be contribute to strengthen our relationship. This Indo-Russian Youth Conferences was started. Our founding President and Director, Professor Arun Manti, his dream was to engage our young generations because our young generation will be play the greater role to strengthen our bilateral relationship. On this objective, I especially warm welcome to all the speakers from MGIGMO, St. Petersburg State University, Liftech, Jawaharlal Nehru University, then Jadavpur University, Kerala Central University, International Institute of Health Management Research, Delhi, Fakir Mohun University, Lovely Professional University, Indira Gandhi Open National University and Central University of Rajasthan, and other participants from other universities across the globe. Now I welcome all the dignitaries, diplomats, eminent academicians, policymakers, media representatives, and research scholars from 5 countries: India, Russia, Japan, China, Philippines, Turkey, and Bangladesh to this conference. I am happy to announce that all these participants, they are going to participate in the 3-day technical session. They will present their papers and participate in these conferences. Now, may I request Professor Gidadhubli to chair this session. Professor Gidadhubli was actually the founding director and adjunct professor, Center for Central Eurasian Studies, University of Mumbai, Maharashtra. You are the first Indian to get the doctorate degree from the USSR during that period, the People's Friendship University. He holds in-depth academic knowledge and career work expertise in the wide array of topics pertaining to Central Eurasia, such as societies, markets, and politics and all. He has written lots of books on Indo-Russian friendship, Indo-Russian relations. His recent book is Re-emerging Eurasian, Russia and India Relations in 2000 published. Now I would request Professor Gidadhubli, if he is not unable to join due to his technical reasons. Now we request Dr. Sanjay Deshpande to chair this session.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. Gidadhubli sir is online.
Okay. Request Professor Gidadhubli sir, please chair this session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, this is a very good opportunity for us to hold this meeting, and then 50 years of India-Russia strategic partnership and relationship, and then both your center and our center, Eurasian Studies, is holding this conference. As you know, the center for our center in Bombay University was set up in 1971 as a part of the Urban Studies program of the UGC and the Ministry of External Affairs, and to promote India's relations with the Soviet Union, academic interaction, and a business community, and so on. The center, which was set up, and then it had been cooperating, and then India's relations with the Soviet Union and the post-Soviet Russia and the Central independent states have been close, cordial, and consistent. And therefore, in fact, this is a good opportunity for us to celebrate 50 years of our relationship. And today is a great occasion that many of Russia and India are participating in this conference, and then therefore, both the centers are very extremely happy to organize this center. And the center has been interacting with the academic community, with the business community, and social institutions. Therefore, this is a good opportunity, and therefore it is appreciable that many of the good speakers are here today to speak on this occasion. I request our ambassador for this thing to speak on this occasion. And then, so therefore, I appreciate that this occasion will be extremely good, and then we will this thing. So I appreciate Madam Namita, and then also to make it up, and then all this thing. So may I request the next our speaker to speak on this occasion, sir.
Subrat.
If you can share the screen. Yes.
Yes.
Namaskar. Greetings from the Embassy of India in Moscow. And I'm very happy to join the discussion on Indo-Russian Young Scholars International Conference of 2021 to discuss India-Russia domestic and bilateral cooperation on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the conclusion of the Indo-Pacific Treaty of 1971. This was in August of this year, and the embassy had organized a function to commemorate this historic treaty between India and the Soviet Union, which I believe is the most important and the most consequential treaty ever concluded by India during its 75 years of independence. I say it's consequential because of the fact that it showed the strategic alignment, congruity, and convergence of security interests between India and the Soviet Union in the geopolitical context. We greatly appreciate the support that the Soviet Union provided to India at a time of grave regional and international tensions in 1971, which enabled India to carry forward an independent policy on matters of war and peace that finally led to the establishment of a new nation, Bangladesh, with which India has the best of relations even today. There is no treaty that has been concluded by India that has been more consequential than a 1971 treaty with the Soviet Union. I would like to congratulate Professor Gidadhubli, Founder Director and Adjunct Professor, Center for Central Eurasian Studies of the University of Mumbai, and their partners, the Center for Indian Studies, the Institute of Oriental Studies, the Lipetsk Pedagogical University, the Russian Center for Science and Culture in Delhi, the Center for Eurasian Studies at the University of Mumbai, and the Center for Third Voice Studies in India, who have come together to commemorate this historic occasion. Let me convey my greetings to my dear friend, colleague, and my partner in India, Ambassador Kudashev, the ambassador, the distinguished ambassador of the Russian Federation to India, for its constant support for the promotion of India-Russia relations. We also want to convey our appreciation to Dr. Sumant Swain, Professor Archana Upadhyaya, Professor Sanjay Deshpande, of course, my dear friend and partner, collaborator, Professor Tatiyana Shauman, my dear friend, Professor Nandan Unnikrishnan, and Mr. Fyodor Rozovsky for participating in this event. India-Russia relations has a great history, but I believe it has even a greater future. And that future is the hands of our young scholars, of our young academics, of our young diplomats, who will carry forward this relationship consistent with the interests, the national interests of India and Russia. The national interests of Russia and India coincide in a manner that is quite unique. There is no fundamental contradiction between India and Russia, and that has been the main source of our partnership, and this is to be carried forward by future generations. The recent interactions between Prime Minister, His Excellency Mr. Narendra Modi, and President Vladimir Putin of the Russian Federation have demonstrated once again that at the highest levels, both in India and in Russia, there is strong commitment to further deepen and strengthen the special and privileged strategic partnership that so happily exists between India and Russia. This is necessary not just for the well-being and the security of our two nations, but also for regional and international peace and stability. This is an important conference. I wish all the participants good luck, good deliberations, all success, and in these very difficult times relating to the COVID, and success. Thank you very much for inviting me. I apologize for the fact that I could not be available for this conference this is a recorded message but I will convey to you once again my very warm greetings from the Indian Embassy in Moscow. Jai Hind.
Professor Deshpande could take over, or you could take over.
Okay. Professor Deshpande, sir, Sanjay sir, please take over as a chairperson, sir.
Yes, yes. Now I request on behalf of the ambassador, His Excellency Mr. Kudashev, the consular from the Russian embassy in Delhi will address the session. Please. On behalf of the ambassador, His Excellency Mr. Kudashev, Nikolay, the senior consular from the embassy.
Good afternoon.
Yeah,
Good
please.
afternoon. Good
Yes,
afternoon.
please.
So, dear friends, Your Excellency Ambassador Venkatesh Varma, distinguished Fyodor Razovsky, Honorable Professor Archana Upadhyaya, Professor Sanjay Deshpande, dear colleagues, it's a great honor for me to be present here on this remarkable anniversary day, because this year we really celebrate 50th anniversary of signing the bilateral treaty of peace, friendship, and cooperation. I can say a milestone for Russia and India ties. The document has set the tone for their forward development in the years ahead. After half a century, its provisions are still in vigor, serving as the basis for multiple bilateral documents. The historical significance of the treaty is also in launching a vision of the new global order the two countries jointly advocate on international arena. It reaffirms our determination to promote the consolidation of universal peace and security, manifesting an adherence to the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter and faith in the principles of peaceful cooperation between states with different political and social systems. It declares our willingness to refrain from interfering in another state's internal affairs to achieve general and complete disarmament under effective international control, to struggle against racial domination. Colleagues, this document concluded at one of the hardest times in India's history, at the turning point of South Asia's political development. This treaty has served to support the sovereignty and right for self-determining of foreign policy of the recently decolonized development state, appeared to be one of the major seeds of our all-weather friendship. We have been supporting each other when it is hard since the times of the Second World War, during which our peoples, I mean Indian and Russian, of course, shown unanimous solidarity combating against the common enemy. Nowadays, when the humankind has to stand against a new pandemic, a challenge comparable to a war, India is making a breakthrough in a highly efficient Russian vaccine's international spread, despite some other countries' efforts to contain. At these difficult times, it's not only the healthcare requiring extra support. We keep on backing India's economy, industrialized with our assistance 50 years ago, by creating new energy opportunities provided by Kudankulam, for example. Taking into account the impact made by the COVID-19 to global educational system, Russia was one of the first countries to resume issuing student visas for Indians in early 2021, allowing studies offline. Both nations show that the lawless sanctions cannot be barriers for our mutually beneficial economic cooperation, whoever wants to impose them. Dear friends, India has proved to be strong enough to defy the United States sanctions by ordering their air defense systems, and the colonialism condemned in this treaty has turned into neo-colonialism with its policy of unilateral restrictions to non-vassal countries. And we were heartened by Minister Jaishankar's stating that India would not like any state to tell us what to buy or not to buy. Dear colleagues, a proverb, Russian proverb, a friend in need when a friend indeed, has been always relevant to our friendship. And the treaty has successfully stood for the test of time. I'm absolutely confident that the two countries, guided by the coinciding political and economic priorities, will continue working to strengthen the traditions of this friendship. Special and privileged strategic partnership for the prosperity of our peoples and the whole humanity. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much. You just briefed us the significance of the Indo-Soviet Friendship Treaty of 1971, and in which circumstances the treaty was signed between the two countries. And after that, now 50 years have been passed, and we see how that treaty of friendship has been converted into a very mutual and trusted strategic partnership between these two countries in last some phases in that relationship. So, with the positive note, as His Excellency has pointed out, surely both the countries will surely they will have the great friendship, and that will be continued for years to come. So thank you so much. Let's convey on behalf of the organizers, convey our regards and our best wishes to His Excellency. And thank you very much for your valuable time. Now I request Professor Archana Upadhyaya. She is the chairperson, the current chairperson of the Russian and Central Asian Studies, a well-known scholar on Russian, Central Asian and Eurasian affairs in School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and a very good human being, a very good host. So I know her very well from last several years. Please, Professor Upadhyaya.
Thank you, Professor Deshpande, for your kind words. Excellencies, friends, and colleagues, a very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the Eurasian Foundation and a host of other institutions in India and Russia for coming together to organize this big event, that is the Young Scholars International Conference, to mark the 50th anniversary of the Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation between India and Soviet Union. At that point in time, it was Soviet Union. So, as today's event is to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the treaty, I would like to begin with a few words on what the treaty meant for India. Well, some commentators have described the treaty as the most seminal foreign policy arrangement that India entered into in the 20th century. It was something that profoundly impacted the politics and the geography of South Asia, thus paving the way for the emergence of India as a preeminent power in the South Asian region. To the question if this treaty was a response to the crisis in East Pakistan, interestingly, there are a lot of material in the public domain which would indicate that the treaty was already in the pipeline much before the East Pakistan crisis emerged or erupted in March 1971. And clearly there was a China factor to it, both for India and for Soviet Union. For India, it's well known the 1962 war with China and what followed thereafter, and how it impacted domestic politics and India's own understanding of strategic issues. For the Soviet Union, well, it is interesting to note that the treaty was proposed first in 1969, soon after the Ussuri River border clashes between Chinese and Soviet forces in March 1969. In fact, much of the draft of the treaty was ready by October 1970, that is again much before the East Pakistan crisis erupted in March 1971. So in fact, it can be safely said that Bangladesh was a beneficiary of this treaty by default, as there was no external great power interference in the East Pakistan crisis on account of the provisions of this treaty. Well, it has been 50 years since then. And in the last 50 years, the world has changed dramatically. India and its neighborhood, including its extended neighborhood, has evolved significantly. The Soviet Union no longer exists, and Russia, the successor to the Soviet Union, has transitioned fully into what is understood as the post-Soviet era. The US continues to remain the preeminent world power locked in competition with China. The belligerent rise of China is a cause of concern for India, much as Russia finds the US belligerence very discomforting. Now, coming to the relations between Russia and India, well, as our Prime Minister recently said a couple of days ago, that this relationship has been among the steadiest of the major relationships in the world, particularly after the Second World War. However, we have to remember that this relationship has not remained static either. Where India is concerned, its interests and its influence has extended beyond the subcontinent, beyond the Indian subcontinent. In fact, India has become a very active shaper of global debates and discourses on a host of very important issues on different regional and global forums. Russia, as a Eurasian and Euro-Pacific power, and also as the inheritor of the Soviet legacy, is also very critical to the world order. Thus, it is evident that in a world that has been undergoing continuous changes, both India and Russia have evolved considerably in the last 50 years. At the core of this changed reality is the acceptance of a multipolar world order, that is, the acceptance of a diverse international order that is committed to the sovereign equality of all states. And as we know, that since international relations, in the words of India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, can never be change-proofed, and since the operating principle of a multipolar world is the legitimate pursuit of flexibility, the reassessment of the global arena and its challenges is bound to happen. It is inevitable, and that's exactly what has happened. Of course, such reassessment is driven by changes in capabilities and interests among the major players in a given theater. Both India and Russia have displayed the maturity to understand that this, and in the thicket of international realpolitik, both nations realize the importance of being flexible on friendship and also devising innovative ways to engage with each other. Both countries therefore have common opportunities to explore new partnerships. In fact, India believes that minilateral partnerships, whether bilateral, trilateral, quadrilateral, or more, can positively impact the current global environment, and both India and Russia have a role to play in it. There is a vast global commons whose safety, security, ecology, environment, and activities are increasingly a shared responsibility, and this creates space for exploring new dimensions of cooperation at a time when the international order appears to be in a state of flux. Here I would want to say something on the discourse surrounding the Indo-Pacific, on which both India and Russia have divergent views. To the question, why does Russia oppose the Indo-Pacific concept? Well, Russia views the Indo-Pacific concept as a strategic challenge to its policies in Asia and thus its wider international position. In other words, Russia views the Indo-Pacific concept as a security containment strategy aimed at promoting a two-bloc system in Asia comparable to developments in Europe during the Cold War period. This explains, perhaps this really explains, Russia's opposition to the Quad, that is the quadrilateral security dialogue comprising Australia, India, Japan, and the US, believing that the Quad is an artificially imposed concept, geographically ill-defined and diverse, designed to undermine the close partnership between Moscow and New Delhi, that is between India and Russia. In fact, very harsh words have been used from time to time as the Quad being something like an Asian NATO. From the Indian perspective, its border challenges. We all know what happened in Galwan and a host of other related issues that India has been dealing with in the last 2 years in public glare. So from the Indian perspective, its border challenges will mandate its foreign policy choices. And this clearly informs India's vision of the Indo-Pacific. Over the years, India has moved towards being a conscious maritime power while simultaneously sustaining its continental orientation and emphasis. For India, what started in the early 90s as Look East policy matured to Act East under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And then, of course, the Indian Pacific vision is a further advancement of it. India is actually seeking a more active Russian participation in the Indo-Pacific region. It is significant that in the year 2019, in the East Asia Summit, the Indian Prime Minister had declared, and I quote, that Russia's Far East will become a confluence of the Eurasian Union on one side and the open, free, and inclusive Indo-Pacific on the other, unquote. The emphasis is on open, free, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. More recently, that's I think on the 3rd or 4th of September, in his virtual address at the 6th Eastern Economic Forum Summit in Vladivostok, Prime Minister Modi said that in the Indian civilizational context, the word Sangam has a very special meaning. Sangam as a confluence or coming together of rivers, people, and ideas. Vladivostok, thus, in the words of the Prime Minister, is truly a sangam of Eurasia and the Pacific. Significantly, it is important to point out that the idea of Greater Eurasia and the Greater Eurasian Partnership, which is the Russia-led vision of Eurasian integration, certainly can be a very, very important component of this Sangam that the Indian Prime Minister spoke about. Besides this, the changing situation in South Asia, particularly in Afghanistan, which has been worrying us a lot since the 15th of August, also adds a complex strategic background to the Moscow-Delhi or India-Russia partnership. The fast-changing developments in Afghanistan, as it's evolving, is pushing Indian foreign policy establishment in an unexpected direction. Significantly, the Eurasian space has become very important, and also organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and also the role of Eurasian regional actors particularly stand out. So the role that Russia is going to play in the days to come is going to be vital, and perhaps it also offers a big window to India too to play a proactive role there. In the just concluded 13th BRICS summit, both India and Russia were on the same page when it came to identifying the security threats and challenges coming from Afghanistan. And President Putin was quite candid in mentioning terrorism, extremism, drugs, small trade, small arms, and refugees are some of the biggest challenges that the region has to face in the days to come. So coming to conclusion, I would say that a sense of realism has come to define or has come to shape the pattern of engagement between India and Russia as both these countries adapt to the changing dynamics in their respective relations, not just with each other, but with other major global players, namely China and the US, and also in their pursuit of unapologetic interest-based foreign policy. Having said this, it is also true, as was emphasized by the Indian External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar, in his address at the Primikov Institute of World Economy and International Relations a couple of months ago, I think it was 10th of July, when he said that in the context of India and Russia relationship, what we have to remember is that geopolitical compatibility, leadership trust, and popular sentiment between our people continue to be the key drivers of the relationship between India and Russia. And as we all know, that old relationships have the capacity to reincarnate in better ways in new and changed circumstances. This certainly holds true for our two great countries, India and Russia, and the relationship which they share. Thank you so much.
Professor Upadhyaya, thank you so much. You have started from the history of this treaty. And you have mentioned that the first it was proposed to sign in 1969. And then after that, 1971, and then you ended up with the contemporary history of international relations, where India and Russia can stand together and they can work together. You just briefed us about this, how India and Russia can work in Indo-Pacific, and Quad is, though India has joined the Quad, but this is not a artificially drawn treaty. And then after that, about Afghanistan also. Yes, India will definitely play a vital role in Afghanistan along with Russia. And surely that's, there is no doubt that Eurasian space, a post-Soviet Eurasian space will play an important role in future also. And of course, Russia will stay as a major power in this region. So thank you very much. Now, unfortunately, Professor Gidadhubli, some technical issues. So I invite myself to talk on related to this topic. That does not look good, but I don't want to break the protocol and the sequence of this. So therefore, I will surely,
Ma'am, sir, we are inviting you for this lecture, sir.
yes,
go
thank
ahead.
you so much. Thank you so much. I am one of the organizers, so therefore, so thank you very much, Dr. Swain.
Thank you, sir. No, please continue, sir.
Talk briefly in just less than 5 to 7 minutes. I will brief this about the Indo-Russian relations. This year, India and Russia are celebrating 75 years of establishment of diplomatic relations. However, the relation between the two countries have a long history. The General Consulate of Russian Empire was initiated first in 1900 at my place at Bombay, which then shifted to Calcutta in 1911 and to Delhi in 1947. But the humanitarian relations started taking place more than 550 years back when Russian merchant traveler from Astrakhan, Afanasy Nikitin, landed on Indian soil, once again on western coast of India, near Alibag, the place called Chol, in 1469, 30 years before Vasco da Gama landed on Indian territory in Cochin. He spent 3 years in India and wrote a book based on his experiences, which was later printed in Russia. The name of the book is Voyage Beyond Three Seas. So relation between India and Russia have a long 550 years history, 5.5 centuries history. And in 1625, trade mission was built for Indian merchants in Astrakhan because Astrakhan was a very important port at that time. And the first Soviet trade agency was established in Calcutta in 1943. Now, many trade agencies, trade houses in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Calcutta, in Chennai, but I will not go into detail the history. So therefore, I will start from the last century. The 21st century is different in many respects from the last century. The Cold War bipolarity has ended with the disintegration of the Soviet Union in December 1991. In such situation, Indo-Russian relations have entered into a very competitive phase of relationship with inherent complexities of changing times. India and erstwhile Soviet Union established their diplomatic relations on 13th of April 1947. At that time, India was still fighting for independence and Soviet Union was limping back to normalcy from the ruin of the Second World War, hoping to achieve a world socialist system. And India wanted to build a liberal and vibrant democracy in mixed economy based on the Soviet model, little bit, the mixed economy. So, and Soviet Union wanted at that time the same, a major player in international relations. And that was no doubt for 4 years, the Soviet Union's socialism. This means they fought the Cold War with the other superpower, United States, and this war, Cold War, was fought between not only the two countries, but between the two systems, the capitalist system led by the United States, the socialist system led by the erstwhile Soviet Union. And during the 7 decades, more than 7.5 decades, they built a friendship of mutual trust, though there were many ups and downs in their relationship, particularly after 1991. But there were some milestones. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1971, the Declaration of 1986, which was signed by Mikhail Gorbachev and Rajiv Gandhi, Strategic Partnership Treaty of 2000. And let me quote here that this treaty was first advocated and initiated by Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Druzhba Dosti of 2014 are the key milestones in the relationship between the two countries. In the 1960s of the last century, Indian-Soviet Union relations had touched a new high. But the disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991, Indo-Russian relations in the last 3 decades have assumed a meaningful significance. From the beginning of 1990s, India and Russia began to pass through tough economic transformation. Russian Federation experienced triple transition in polity, in economy, and ideology. And India passed through economic reforms. And I may say here that partially corrected ideological course of socialism, while the departure, many scholars argue here that the departure from the socialist ideology brought them to a common platform of political cooperation. And the urgency of economic reform pushed both the countries, both Russia and India, to come close. And these reforms are unchanging complexities of pressing issues like energy security, combating terrorism, and other non-traditional issues brought about a partnership of strategic importance to both the nations. In order to formalize the turbulent phase of post-Soviet relations, leaders of both the countries have taken decisive steps to hold annual summit of Russian President and Prime Minister of India from October 2000 onwards. Because first took place in October 2000. Indo-Russian cooperation has multidimensional implications. The cooperation covers important areas such as economy, trade, defense, energy, culture, science and technology, and many others. But mutual trust and confidence in each other have enabled the two countries to reach a very high level of cooperation in most areas. While political relations and defense ties are on sound footing, but economic relations require serious improvements. That's why I always say the weakest link in Indo-Russian relations is economic relation, because they have not crossed more than $15 billion, though we were expecting everyone, there's more than $30 billion. So therefore, there are many issues and we have to work seriously on this topic. And we do hope that in future, they will work together, they will find some solution. And in this context, INSTC, in International North-South Trade Corridor, will surely help to boost economic relations between the two countries. Indo-Russian bilateral relations is the core of its significance on regional and global power dynamics, is no less important from Indian point of view. Archana Upadhyaya has given many examples on this issue. So therefore, I will not go into detail everything, but they have succeeded in maintaining certain equilibrium in the region. The new geopolitical environment, multiple level of bilateral and multilateral interaction have opened new vistas for defining their partnership to raise the level of bilateral relations with compromising their without compromising their interest. And the driving force behind the relations in 21st century is commonality of geopolitical and geo-economic interests of both the countries. In new historical conditions, notwithstanding that both India and Russia are witnessing changes in their internal economic and political structures, intensive interaction between the two countries have undergone a qualitative change. So these relations have become civilizational. It can be called now the intermingling of two great civilizations. That's Professor Upadhyaya just mentioned. I totally agree with you. The intermingling of two great civilizations. India-Russia agenda of interaction in the 21st century is a significant factor in democratization of international relations and will guarantee equal partnership and cooperation in the world. India and Russia have entered the third millennium as reliable strategic partners who closely coordinate their policies as regional as well as global level. They are actively working in Shanghai Cooperation Organization. India has become the member just 4 years back, and BRICS also. So they both should make plans for the future and update their terms of mutual reference in a rapidly changing world. India and Russia have successfully converted this special relationship into a meaningful, mutually beneficial strategic partnership that serves the best national interests of both the countries and strengthen security and stability in the world. And surely that global and regional politics will surely dominate on the relations, or surely will impact on Indo-Russian relations. So therefore, to conclude, I say that my submission is that though we have very good diplomatic political relations, cultural relations, we have very good cultural relations in Delhi, headed by our dear friend Fyodor Razovsky, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, and Trivandrum, and they are working very closely with Indian academicians, the people from cultural field, and many other, and surely that is helping to to boost our cultural relations. But we have to find a way to have a very good economic relations in future, and both the countries will come together, they discuss, and they will have very good relations. So I stop here. Thank you very much for your patience. I stop here. Now I invite Professor Gidadhubli, still unmute. So I invite Professor Tatiyana Shauman, whom I know when I was student in Moscow. I used to go to her institute from a long time. I was the student of Oleg Konstantinovich Dreher, and Professor Kusinkov, Moskalenko, Belekhnitsky, and others. Of course, Kotovsky, Komarov, they were my teachers. And now you are one of the topmost experts on India and heading Indian Center. And my friend is heading your institute, Alik Bear. So this is my honor to invite you, Professor Shauman, to share your views on this topic. Please, floor is yours, madam.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very grateful for your words about our institute, about our meeting in the past, about the contacts between our institute and you are welcome always. We'll be happy to see you in our institute, I should say. And I would like to start with to remind my feelings, my best regards towards the memory of Arun Mahanti, because Arun Mahanti, Professor Arun Mahanti, was real friends of Russia and the Soviet Union. Arun Mahanti was the author of many works, many papers about the Russian-Indian relations. Arun Mahanti was the guest of our institute several times. And I remember very well when we were the guest of place of Arun Mahanti in New Delhi. It was very nice memory. And Dr. Swain, I remember you were the student and postgraduate student of Professor Arun Mahanti. And I think that in his memory, we should, this conference had been organized and to the memory of him as a specialist and the personality and the friend. And I think that it is very important. And I congratulate you for the organizing of such conference, which is devoted to the events of 71. And I think that really very important for both, for two our countries. But I should say also that in our institute in May, this year, we organized conference devoted to the events of 71 and new international order in South Asia, and our glance after 50 years. And I would like to mention that in this conference participated as speakers. It was 29 papers had been read from different parts of the Russian Federation, from the different institutions. And as I know, Professor Larissa Chereshkova will also participate in this conference, and she participated in our conference in May. And I think that it is very important that our coordination in studies, our coordination in our research, this is also very important for our institutions. And I would like also to mention that between, as you know, I think, that between India and Russia, between Indian Council for Social Science Research and Academy of Sciences of Russian Federation, we have the special agreements about the scientific cooperation. And I should say that recently in Moscow, in the embassy of Moscow, our new director signed this new prolongation of our memorandum of understanding between our institute and India in the Indian Science for Social Science, Indian Council for Social Science Research, in continuation of our collaboration. And moreover, yesterday, in the embassy of India, it had been signed the new memorandum of understanding between Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts and Institute of Oriental Studies. And I think the framework of this organization, we also participate, continues our joint research, our joint, I hope that we'll have an opportunity. You know, the situation, of course, not very easy now. And, you know, therefore, sometimes not very easy to organize the conferences and with the invitation of foreign participants. But I'm sure that we'll continue our tradition and will not violate this tradition, and our tradition in joint research would be continued. And of course, our speakers who spoke before, they were paid a lot of attention to the treaty as it was, and the importance of this treaty. And of course, I can only add some few words about that, because of course, this treaty, which had been signed in August, it is absolutely unique document. And that was a unique document which survives the many events which has happened during these 50 years after its signing. But it is there. This document is it survived. And this document is very important for our two countries, and we'll continue to collaborate in different aspects of in economics, in politics, in strategic things. We should collaborate, and I am sure that we'll continue our contacts and our collaboration in all this sphere. And I only, you know, it was really very important. And we remember that it was signed in not very easy time. It was signed in the activization of United States and Chinese and Pakistan collaboration. And in this situation, it was very important for both our countries, for India and for us, for Soviet Union to make some joint acts to continue our contacts and continue our joint politics and to continue our joint very important position on many aspects of international relations. And I think it was really very important. Of course, this document was very important safeguard for the India's sovereignty and for the Soviet Union's politics in Asia and international relations. And it was, in some sense, we can say that it was the strong deterrent to outside aggression. And I would mention the words of then Foreign Ministry, Mr. Swaran Singh, and he said that we should not allow any other country or a combination of countries to dominate us or to interfere in our internal affairs. I think that was enough important statement. As to Russian, I also make mention the editorial in Pravda newspaper underline the significance of the treaty, saying the treaty had effectively restrained Pakistan and her allies from embarking on the course of military adventurism and the subcontinent, and would continue to act as a deterrent against the hegemonic goals. I think that times are changing, it is clear. But in spite of this, the importance of our relationship are the same in collaboration in our trade relations, in our political relationship. We are having the joint visits of our leaders, their contacts, and their discussing of our joint interests. I think that it is very important that in the different sphere of our life, we have the relationship, and we continue to have this relationship. And I think that we will, that is it became part of our life and relationship with India. And I'm sure that if you ask on the streets in Moscow, I think that in Delhi as well, about this relationship, I think that it was a very positive reaction on that. And really, during this time, the new documents had been signed, and President Putin and Indian Prime Minister signed the documents about the special and privileged, now it calls special and privileged strategic partnership with India. And I'm sure that it remains as one of the most defining moments in our life. And I hope that such kind of relationship not only will continue, but expanding more and more. And in some aspect, I think that our today meeting is their contribution to the further relationship in our scientific circles, in our institutions, and you are welcome, and we'll be happy to see you in our institutes. Thank you.
Professor Shauman,
Yeah.
It was a very interesting talk that you spoke about how the treaty was signed, the importance of the treaty, the significance of the treaty, and the history. I know that when your contribution to the Indian Indo-Russian in Russia is immense, and I do hope that in future also you continue to guide us and young scholars also in future about Indo-Russian relations, how they will develop, and the future dynamics of the relationship. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. We seek your guidance always. Yeah. Unfortunately, Nandan Unnikrishnan, my dear friend, is today not participating due to some urgent work in his office. So he has passed on this message to us, but he has conveyed his greetings to everyone. So now I invite, this is my honor to invite our dear friend, the director of Russian Center for Science and Culture, or Ruski Dom in Delhi, Mr. Fyodor Razovsky is a good friend of every Indian. He organizes so many programs under his leadership. This the cultural relationship between the two countries. Nearly 30 years he is there in the cultural department. He was in Mumbai. Last several years he is in Delhi. I invite Mr. Razovsky. Please, sir, आप बोलिए अभी, Razov.
Спасибо, дорогой Sanjay. Thank you so much. I am really touched with your words, which I consider to be an exaggeration. Except one thing, I am not only a friend of every Indian, but I also am a friend of all my Russian colleagues from the Institute of Oriental Studies, Professor Shauman and Professor Vanina, my old-time friends and colleagues, and definitely Tatiyana Shaumanji is my guru from my young age. So dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, especially my dearest friend, Professor Gidadhubli, who is today deprived of the sound by some technical reason, whom I know for more than 30 years. Really pleasure and privilege to take part in the international conference of young scholars, whom I want to welcome also, because this conference is not for us, it's for you, for young scholars. And definitely my gratitude goes to the Eurasian Foundation for this event, because it's the second event that we started last year during all pandemic time. We start with the Eurasian Foundation, this conference, which proved to be a big success last year. And I hope that together it will be also very useful according to the elaborated program for young scholars and people who will be participating in this. Not trying to compete with our distinguished scholars who were speaking before me. I want to concentrate on the humanitarian part of Indo-Russian strategic cooperation, and particularly in the part which is very much connected with Russian and Indian youth. I'm sure that all of us, elder generation, understand very well the significance of the historical treaty of peace, friendship, and cooperation of 1971. And we're doing a lot, our centers are doing a lot to share our opinion, our experience, our view about this historical treaty with young generation. So I will speak a few words about activities of our federal agency, Россотрудничество, which is running 5 centers, Russian centers of science and culture, and now for easier pronunciation, we are calling them Russian houses in New Delhi, Bombay, Kolkata, Chennai, and Thiruvananthapuram. Indian youth consisting of students of universities and schools, activists of public and political organizations, graduates of Russian and Soviet Russian universities, and representatives of the creative and business circles are actively involved in the events organized by the Russian houses in India. Representatives of age between 5 to 16 are most interested in obtaining versatile information about Russia, its history, peoples, languages, literature, culture, scientific achievement, and education system. This interest is being realized within the framework of the Window of Russia program launched in 2009, first in Russian Center in Chennai and then in New Delhi and other centers. The format of the event provides an opportunity for Indian school children and young students to visit Russian centers and attend the interactive programs, which includes video presentations, screening of documentaries and cartoons about Russia, photo exhibition, lectures and quizzes. In addition, a representative of this age group actively attend the clubs of the Russian houses, including schools of Russian classical ballet, chess schools. Almost every Russian center got this chess schools, and maybe young generation doesn't know, but Vishwanathan Anand was, he learned to play chess in Soviet Cultural Center in Madras, in the chess club named after Mikhail Tal, famous Soviet grossmaster. Also, art schools are very popular for Indian students. They actively participate in the creative activities of our centers, concerts, arts exhibition, tournaments. An important component in this area is organization on a regular basis of master classes, open lessons with Russian actors, artists, and chess players. Moreover, I would like to highlight the work with students of Indian schools with the Russian language courses. For them, Russian House in New Delhi holds traditional winter days of the Russian language, literature, and culture. And all centers are holding the days of Russian language on the birthday of Alexander Pushkin on the 6th of June every year. The program of which includes various contests, quizzes, and Olympiads, recitation competition, Olympiad in the Russian language, contests for performers of Russian song, dance, and national costumes. This age group is actively interested in education in Russia, and together with university students is the main target audience for promoting Russian higher education to the Indian market of educational services. Indian school children also take an active part in seminars on the educational system, Olympiads. The International Olympiad for School Children in Physics and Mathematics, FISTEC International of the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, which is a world famous and leading educational institution in physics and mathematics, and the annual International Online Olympiad BRICS Math for the school children of the BRICS country deserve special mention. Events of this format help create a positive image of Russian education, stimulates interest among Indian students and talented Indian youth, and selects the most promising graduates of Indian school for studies at Russian universities on the basis of federal government scholarship, means free of cost education. The central event in this area is All India Exhibition Fair, Russian Education, which for almost 20 years has been organized by our office with traditional partners, the educational companies, Rus Education and Study Abroad. This year and last year, due to COVID-19 pandemic, the exhibition was held on the basis of a specially created interactive online platform with the participation of more than 27 federal and regional universities from 18 cities of Russian Federation. This format made it possible to significantly increase the scale of the event and provide access to it for applicants from all over the country. The needs and demands of Indian youth are shaped by various factors that we must take into account of our work. Indian society is highly patriarchal, that has rather strict morals and high moral standard for its member. So from this point of view, we are organizing our work. Representative of the second age group, university students of between 17 and 27 years old are most interested not only in obtaining higher education in Russia, mainly postgraduate, master and PhD degree, but also in participating in various short-term cultural and scientific exchange programs. The most effective and popular form of work with young people of this age group still remains to be the presidential program of short-term study tours to Russia called New Generation, which is 10 years old. Many young leaders and young business entrepreneurs and people of art participating from India participate in this program. It's organized for the people age limit from 25 to 35. And unfortunately, due to pandemic, this year also Indian students could not go to our country for a few events which took place in Orenburg and Vladivostok last month. We also are developing the cooperation between Russian educational institutions in the field of art. So in 2019, with the framework of the Year of Theatre in Russia, with the support of Russian Center in Delhi, the delegation of the Russian Institute of Theatre Art, GITIS, led by its rector, Grigory Zaslavsky, visited the National School of Drama in New Delhi. And the unique interaction between Russian and Indian leading theater institutions included daily master classes, one play and 2 musical concerts. Mr. Grigory Zaslavsky and Professor Suresh Sharma, director of the NCD, came to the agreement to conduct such interaction on a regular basis. Large delegations from India regularly take part in a major international event in Russia, organized by such organizations as the Russian Union of Youth and Federal Agency of Youth Affairs of Russian Federation. So I tried in a few words to try to explain to all our participants, particularly young participants, then an important part of our work in the sphere of humanitarian cooperation is expanding the circle of active youth who are involved in the development and deepening of social, business, and scientific ties between our two countries. Our youth is our future, and in many ways, it's the interaction between representatives of the youth communities that will determine the further course of development of relations between Russia and India. So that's why we're happy to be a part of organizing this event and this conference. And I hope and wish to this conference and to all the participants big success. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Razovsky, for your address to us. And it's very heartening that you are promoting the exchange of students and scholars in various age groups. You sponsor many Indian scholars and students to your country. Even some of my students also have been benefited from this scholarships, and but last nearly 2 years they could not visit Russia, and I hope that in future they will visit your country to just see how the youth in Russia is living now, how they are working. So thank you very much, Russian Center, Ruski Dom, for your guidance and cooperation in various fields to us, particularly the academics also, because we were immensely benefited from your many events, not only in Delhi, in Mumbai, everywhere. So thank you very much. And now, we end the program here. And Mr. Razovsky rightly said that this is the program we have organized to promote the young talent the young scholars particularly in Indo-Russian relations, in the field of Indo-Russian relations. Now, I stop here. I have unfortunately Professor Gidadhubli could not address us, but his guidance is always there with us. That's he's a guiding force behind this. Sir, do you want to say, Professor Gidadhubli?
Some technical problems, sir.
Yeah, technical problems. So we cannot join. What happened? That maybe the problem is the mic. So,
yes, sir.
Sir, I want to say something. Sir, I want to say something. I want to say something, sir.
Yes, please. Your name, please. In brief,
I'm Professor Mamta Chandrasekhar from Indore, Madhya Pradesh.
please.
And I just want to know about what the program or what the schemes for professors in Russia.
Better you ask.
Is there for faculty actually? I would like to know for faculty, is there any program, any schedule, anything which can be availed by us? Because I am a professor, so I would like to know all these things.
Which subject? Which subject?
Political science, sir. Political science.
Political science. Yeah, Mr. Razowski is the better person. He can guide us. Please.
Unfortunately, we don't have any programs because we don't deal with these programs. It should be between universities, exchange and other programs should be established between universities directly. We are not controlling these programs.
Okay.
Universities can sign MOUs with Russian.
Yeah, they're doing it directly.
Yes, Russian universities like JNU has signed, Mumbai University has signed many MOUs with other universities, so they can have many job programs.
Maybe, sorry.
Yes.
Maybe to add the Indian Council for Social Science Research, because this council has the program with us, with Institute of Oriental Studies, with Russian Academy of Sciences. And therefore, I think that this is the proper way to contact. Thank you.
Over to Dr. Swain, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Wonderfully session. Now I request Ms. Namita Mohanty to give the vote of thanks. We request Namita Mohanty to give vote of thanks, please. The president of the Eurasian Foundation.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. On behalf of Eurasian Foundation, we would like to thank you all for joining the inaugural session of Indo-Russian Young Scholars International Conference 2021. We would like to extend a very warm vote of thanks to all the distinguished guests and speakers for gracing the event. We feel overwhelmed to His Excellency Ambassador Mr. D.B. Venkatesh Varma from Russia, Moscow, Indian Embassy, for his video message and for giving his precious time from his busy schedule. Thank you, Ambassador Varma. Thank you so much, sir. We are very much thankful to His Excellency Ambassador Nikolay Kudashev from the Embassy of Russia in India for his message. So on behalf of Ambassador Kudashev, Senior Counselor Mr. Mikhail Titotov for attending our inaugural session and representing on his behalf. We are honored to have you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. A sincere gratitude to Professor Archana Upadhyaya ma'am for joining us and gracing our event with her immense intellectual insight. And she said truly, the relationship between India and Russia is really civilizational. Thank you very much, ma'am. We would also like to thank Professor Sanjay Deshpande for enlightening us and delivering such a great speech. As you said, India and Russia over the decades have been considered as truly natural and unique strategic partners. So thank you very much, Professor Deshpande, for collaborating with us and for nice and very interesting speech. Thank you very much, sir. We are very much thankful to Professor Tatiyana Shauman, ma'am, for sharing her profound thoughts and views in our event. Thank you, ma'am, for very much for delivering such a heartfelt tribute to Professor Arun Mahanti, who was really the best friend of Russia. And usually we said he was better, he was Russian better than Russians. Like he loved so much. And for that, he founded this Eurasian Foundation to develop, to improve the relationship between India and Russia. Now, we are deeply grateful to Mr. Fedor Rajevsky for joining us and presenting a subtle yet significant viewpoint. According to Sir, thank you very much, sir, for your great contribution to keep the friendship, the cultural relationship between India and Russia in India. So thank you very much, sir, once again. It is our pleasure to thank Professor R.G. Gidadhubli and of course, Professor Deshpande for chairing this session so delightfully. Thank you both of you, sir. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Dr. Sumant Swain and Dr. Subrat Behera for organizing this session so brilliantly. Last but not the least, on behalf of Eurasian Foundation, we would like to thank all the dignitaries, diplomats, academicians, research scholars, friends, and media representatives who are present today from India and across the border. Thank you very much. My best wishes to the young scholars and young participants in the third day, 3-day international conference on India-Russia friendship. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was an incredible session and everything. Thank you very much for everything. Namaskar. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, due to the shortage of time, we are already going late. I think the first technical session will be start now without any break.
Sumant,
Yes, sir.
No,
Yes, sir.
No break. We will start immediately.
Exactly, sir. We are already late, sir. Without a break, we are just going to start. The first technical session is going to start now. This technical session particularly dedicated to the strategic partnership between India and Russia. We have already 6-7 presentations for this session. I have already make them the co-hosts to all the presenters. If they interested, they can also share their presentation through this Zoom platform. I have already made them co-hosts. So now I request Professor Nilu Khosla, who is the principal and of the Vivek College, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Now he is associated with the Center for Central Eurasian Studies, University of Mumbai. Professor Nilu Khosla, now the floor is yours to chair this session. It's due to the shortage of time, just I shortcut this the brief profile of Professor Khosla. Now requested to take over this session.
Thank you,
to
sir.
chair this session.
Thank
Please.
you. So before I begin the session, I would like to welcome all the dignitaries on the stage. And even for such a webinar where we get a chance for an exposure for such a talent to be heard. And along with this, the experience of the seniors enable us to continue on this time. My due regards to my guide, to all the teachers who have been there to guide us. But when I head this session and I chairperson it, I request all the participants to be very careful that there are some rules which they have to follow. The first rule which they have to follow is that we give 10 minutes to each speaker. Then along with this, when there will be 3 minutes left, I'll try to give them a warning bell so that they finish their entire presentation in this 10 minutes. Besides that, I request all the persons who would like to, and all the dignitaries who would like to pose questions to the paper presenters that they can ask these questions after all my speakers have completed their own views and presentation. We have in this session almost 6 people who will be presenting the papers, and I'm seeing on my screen that all my participants are present with me. And especially when we take up these presentations, my first participant is Dr. Dilip Raj, and he's from the Center Air Power Studies, who will be speaking on India and Russia cyber security. When I take up this, I expect all my dignitaries to look at my speakers with an idea that they will be speaking about with a hope that India and Russia will always have strategic partnership, which will continue in the days to come. I request Dr. Dilip Raj to start with his presentation, please. I hope you are here, Dilip Raj.
Yes, one interruption. Maximum 10 minutes because we are short up. Sir, 10 minutes they should.
Yeah. And so questions can we take later on? No? That will be the best part of it.
Yes,
Dilip Raj, please unmute yourself and you start your presentation, please.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, and good evening, everyone. Let me begin by thanking the organizers, Eurasian Foundation, Mr. Sumant, and Namita ma'am for inviting me to present my views in this extremely wonderfully organized webinar. And I'm happy to see the legacy of Professor Arun Mohanty continuing. And having known him personally, it's an immense pleasure for me to take part in this event. India-Russia relations, the strategic partnership, for a very long time has been critically evaluated for largely focusing on defense sector, despite being known as the traditional and strategic partners. Nevertheless, in recent years, the two countries have begun to focus much beyond bilateral defense cooperation. Yet, these two countries have much more to accomplish together, especially in this age of fourth industrial revolution, where technological prowess drives change. And as we are aware, the world at present is driven by technological advancements and has been witness to conflict between big powers to not only gain economic, military and strategic dominance, but also in the technological realm. The US-China trade war, which took place in around 2019, in my opinion, was in fact a conflict between the world's two largest economies to dominate over each other in monopolizing certain critical technologies, which are going to shape the importance of cyber and its related technologies, especially internet in today's world order, as we all know, has emerged as a key component in our daily lives. It is well acknowledged by everyone that without cyber technologies and internet, the world as we know it would come to a standstill and the economies around the world could possibly collapse. Therefore, there is a global realization among countries towards the importance of cybersecurity, and India and Russia are no exceptions in this front. One must understand that unlike the conventional domains of land, sea, and air, securing cyberspace is much trickier job, mainly because the threats and threat actors in the conventional domain are more explicit, whereas in the cyber domain, the threat and threat actors are masked behind the technology and can remain anonymous even forever. So due to this technological sophistication of anonymity, it becomes extremely difficult for countries to fight anonymous enemies as well as to gather intelligence and evidence against their perceived threats. The method to overcome this particular challenge is through effective cooperation between countries on intelligence and data sharing for cybersecurity, for enhanced cybersecurity, if I can say that way. And it is for this purpose, India and Russia set up an effort on cybersecurity in 2015, focusing specifically on counter-terrorism. And later in 2016, on the sidelines of BRICS summit, which was held in Goa, the two countries signed an open-ended bilateral cybersecurity agreement known as the Bilateral Agreement on Cooperation in ensuring security in the use of information and communication technology, and this agreement covered a wide area of cooperation in the cyber domain. And in 2019, when Kudamkulam nuclear power plant came under a serious cyber attack in India, both the countries stepped up their cooperation in the cybersecurity sphere. But besides these few measures, India and Russia have not explored more options to cooperate in the cyber realm, while the potentials for cooperation are immense. To begin with, India and Russia can cooperate together in the global internet governance front. And at present, out of the 13 root DNS servers of internet, 11 are operated and owned by the US, which gives the US a monopoly on internet governance. And India and Russia must together campaign for dispersing the management of these individual image in the global stage. Another area where India and Russia could cooperate in the cyber realm is in cybersecurity education and certification. Host to fairly a decent amount of technologically educated and skilled population, both India and Russia. So both these countries can collaborate to formulate cybersecurity certification courses for the world community in the emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, 5G and 6G, robotics, and so on. So by doing this, by formulating some courses for advanced technologies, the two countries can take a lead and can also enhance the number of technically skilled manpower in their own countries, and also develop an alternative for the Western countries certification courses that are existing and have occupied the market as of now. Additionally, research and development in deep
you have 3 minutes more. Please.
Thank you. Yeah. Research and development in deep tech could be another area of interest for India and Russia to cooperate further. And being a technologically driven domain, research and development of indigenous technologies is the key to enhance one's capabilities in cyberspace. So therefore, leading educational institutions and research organizations of both countries could, such as IIT or Moscow State University, things like that, could collaborate on various projects to research and develop intellectual property rights in the sphere of cybersecurity, which could later lead to joint development of cybersecurity products in the later stage in the future. And apart from these, with sufficient backing and publicity from the government of both the countries, the internet companies of two countries can expand their markets in each other's territory, which could become a prospective economic cooperation too. For instance, the internet giant of Yandex is all pervasive in Russia, but its market space in India is almost non-existent. Therefore, with sufficient government support, both the countries' governments, given India's huge population, it could become a huge market for Russian internet company. India could become a huge market for Russian internet company, Yandex, which would also reduce the kind of monopoly that the US internet giant companies like Google is enjoying in a country like India in a great way. And India is in the process of formulating its national cybersecurity strategy at present, and the document is expected to be released by the end of this year. So this document would create.
Please, you will have to wind up in number.
Yes, ma'am. Last minute. So this document would create immense potential for cooperation between India and its trusted global partners, and Russia could emerge as a major benefactor in this front. So the two countries' computer emergency response teams could enter into formal cooperation for sharing of threat intelligence and information. And there is also scope for Russia to collaborate with India in developing cybersecurity testing and certification ecosystem for emerging technologies. And India and Russia could also together formulate and advocate for common standards in emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and robotics. And besides, the two countries' armed forces can also train each other in information warfare technologies and can share possible knowledge on the same. So in conclusion, in my final statement, there is immense scope for the two countries to cooperate and collaborate and learn from each other's experience in the cyber domain. But the question is, how far are the two countries ready to explore the options available to them, and how much of the mutual trust factor in the bilateral relations could further enhance an engagement in this unconventional virtual domain? So with that, I end my brief talk, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dilip. And with this note, like your positive attitude that we can look towards these relationships in the days to come, I now invite my next speaker. It is Saira Grace Singh, and Saira will be speaking on Indian diaspora and soft power diplomacy between India and Russia. Saira is with the Central University of Kerala. I request Saira to unmute herself and start with her presentation, please. We will be taking the questions later on, so you can just.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, Saira, welcome, please.
Yes, ma'am. Honorable Chair, respected dignitaries, and other valued presenters, thank you for giving me this opportunity to present before the distinguished members. I am Sarah from Central University of Kerala, hailing from Kerala. So my topic for today is Indian diaspora and soft power diplomacy between India and Russia. So relations between India and Russia can be rooted in history on the basis of mutual beneficial cooperation and mutual trust. Relations with Russia can be considered as the key pillar of India's foreign policy and can be traced back to Cold War era. Cultural ties or the soft power diplomacy has strengthened the relationship between Russia and India. Indian community in Russian Federation is estimated to be about 14,500. Majority of Indian businessmen are involved in trading, banks, pharmaceuticals, hydrocarbon, and engineering companies. Also, they reside in Moscow. There are about 300 registered companies of India in Moscow. About 30% of Indian students are enrolled in medical and technical institutions in Russia. Now, we'll be discussing about the language and literature, which is an important aspect of culture. About 20 Russian institutions teach Hindi to about 1,500 Russian students. Many other Indian languages are also taught, like Sanskrit, Tamil, Bengali, Gujarati, apart from Hindi. Both Russian and Sanskrit have broad similarities, as the Russian grammatical base is derived from Sanskrit. Indian epic book called Mahabharata is translated into Russian literature. Leo Tolstoy, Alexander Pushkin has also contributed to Indian literature and thought. Gerasim Lebedev and Nicholas Roerich have traveled to India and studied about Indian culture and philosophy. Considering the education, the Indian Council of Cultural Relations have conducted the cultural exchange program where the opportunities are provided for the Russian students to study in India. Advantages of Russian education is that high-level quality education is provided with affordable tuition fees. The Russian government scholarship is also provided to students, which helps them to have study free of charge. There is an increase in the medical and technical Indian students at Russian institutions. In terms of arts, performing arts, in 1914, the Pushkin Drama Theatre, which can also be called as the Chamber Theatre, staged Kalidasa's Shakuntala to the public for the first time. Generations of Russians have danced to the tune of Avara Ho. Indians exulted in the excellence of Anna Pavlova's art. Russia, as a partner country in the 15th International Film Festival, which was conducted in Goa in 2019 between November 20th to 28th. Religion and celebration. Hinduism has also spread in Russia, primarily due to the work of scholars from religious organizations. One major example of such is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which can also be called as the ISKCON, and by itinerant Swamis from India and other small communities, and through migration, there is a spread of religion. There is also an active Tantra Sangha as a part of religion. A festival of India in Russia celebrated between September 2018 to March 2019 in 22 cities, which showcase the best of India's music, dance, food and spiritual tradition. On October 2nd, an exhibition is conducted every year, which is dedicated to remark the friendship of Leo Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi, and was opened at the state capital Duma of the Russian Federation. Hindustani Samaj, one of the oldest organizations in Russia, which is functioning since 1957, is Hindustani Samaj. It helps to promote culture. Other organizations like the Russia Tamil Sangam, Bharatiya Sanskritic Samaj, Amma Association, which is mainly for the Malayalis in Moscow, the Indian Business Alliance, the Textile Business Alliance, and the Durga Puja
3 minutes more, please.
Yes, ma'am.
3 minutes more. So look at your watch.
Hello.
I'm also, ma'am. Please time yourself.
Okay. Also provides for the cultural assets. Considering wellness and lifestyle, the Russians also have general interest towards yoga, India's Ayurvedic system. And June 21st is celebrated as the International Yoga Day, where the Russians cover almost 60 regions with more than 250 events to enrich the significance of yoga. Namaste Russia, which was inaugurated by Indian President in Moscow on May 10th, 2015, which helps to promote people-to-people's interaction between the nations. So altogether, it indicates that this culture portrays rich heritage and anyone from India would feel at home in Russia and vice versa. Also, I would like to bring to your notice that there are some sort of cultural similarities like chai, cinema, history, traditional family values and music. Chai means tea in both the dialects, whether it is Hindi or Russian, and consumption of tea in both the countries is really high. Popularity of movies between both the nations, and there is a rich cultural history, ancient monuments and architectural marvels which bind between both the nations. Family is being considered as a sacred institution, and they also focus upon the traditional family values like that of India. Music, which represents the classic tradition of centuries, and all art forms and occasions are accompanied by music. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay, for completing it on time. We really appreciate that the observations made by you among the youth of that country continues, and I hope we could put in some more statistics about how since so many years we could continue this type of cultural dance. Thank you, Sarah. More questions will come to you later on.
Okay.
Now I request...
Ma'am, I interruption one, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, actually we skipped one presenter, Mr. Artur Maulik from the African studies actually.
In your typing, I think Artup sir was there in the first, but now he's not there. Is he ready? Can we call him now?
Yes, I'm here.
Nusrat sir.
Yes.
He's ready.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry,
because sorry, sir, I saw his name and then
thank you
I
very
welcome.
much.
Yeah, and you are from St. Petersburg University in Russia.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Welcome, and you just put in your title also before we start your presentation, please. You have 10 minutes more. You have 10 minutes to speak, please.
Thank you. So my name is Artur Maklayuk. I'm a student at St. Petersburg State University, and I want to present a report about Indian missile production in international and domestic aspects. And as we all know, in the modern armed forces of many countries, especially large ones, various kinds of missiles play an important role. And if there is a production of missiles on the territory of the country, it becomes an important element of the defense industry. And the Republic of India is no exception in this area. Much attention is paid to both local developments and joint production, where Russia also plays an important role. That's why I chose the topic of today's report to consider the rocket and missile industry in India. And basically, researchers pay attention to the development of ballistic missiles, which of course is one of the most important areas of rocket science. But at the same time, other types of guided missiles make up the majority of the market. And in this report, I'll try to make a brief overview of the main current developments in this area, as well as about cooperation between Russia and India in this area. I'd like to note the fact that in the 20th century, there was also cooperation between India and the Soviet Union in the context of the development and supply of missiles and their defense systems. For example, at the end of 1982, an agreement was signed on the supply of 18 divisions of the Dvina anti-aircraft missile system. A total of 27 divisions were received, and more than 600 guided missiles for these complexes were delivered along with it, which is actually quite a lot. And later, other contracts were concluded between India and the Soviet Union for the supply of other missiles and anti-aircraft missile systems, including large batches of Igla portable anti-aircraft missile systems. For a very important point, which also affected the production of missiles under license in India, was a contract for the licensed production of the armored vehicle BMP-1. With the assistance of a Soviet side, the ordnance factory Medyk was built in the city of Medyk. And in the 1985, the production of a more modern infantry vehicle BMP-2, which in India was called Sarat, began. It was the launch of the BMP-2 production that led to the launch of another line of the license program. On the territory of India, the production of a Soviet anti-tank missile system, Concourse, has begun. The agreement was concluded in 1984, and production was organized by Bharat Dynamics Limited at a special plant near the city of Medyk. At the same time, purchases of other anti-tank missiles from the USSR were carried out. Since I started talking about the Bharat Dynamics Limited company, I'll now turn to the products that this company produces for a while. And first of all, I want to emphasize a few more important points concerning the development of Indian products directly or Indian-Russian joint products. And on the Indian side, as you might all know, the Defense Research and Development Organization is engaged in the majority of missile development. Of course, it's a government agency and so on. And there are some key laboratories and centers, such as the Defense Research and Development Laboratory, which is now the key research center and design bureau of India in the field of missile engineering. And Bharat Dynamics Limited works closely with DRDO and other corporations and specializes in the production of various missile weapons. As for figures, in 1988, the Ministry of Defense of India issued a contract to Bharat Dynamics Limited for the supply of 25,000 licensed products, licensed missiles, and serial deliveries were started in 1992. A decade later, an agreement was signed with the Russian side on the production of a modernized missile system, Concourse M, with newer missiles. And it's worth nothing that according to some reports, production was conducted at an insufficient pace in India, which forced the Indian Ministry of Defense to make a decision in the fall of 2012 to purchase 10,000 missiles in Russia for the aforementioned complex in the amount of about $250 million. Thus, we can see that the relations between India and the Soviet Union and then India and Russia in the field of missile production were practically not interrupted, which shows a high level of trust and cooperation. And as you can see, ATGMs play a very important role in the armament of India. On the website of the Ministry of Defense, you can find a document, an invitation to show interest in the supply of third-generation ATGMs for the Indian Army. Now it has a competition. This is a translation of Concourse, missile and Milan, French missile in service, and the armed forces want to replace it with newer products, respectively. And it's worth noting here that another vector of Indo-Russian cooperation, or a continuation of the vector associated with the licensed production of the Concourse rocket, may loom. Since, for example, Russia produces Kornet M missiles, which is already produced under license in Iran and Saudi Arabia. And there is a possibility of producing this missile under license in India. However, India also has its own promising competitors for foreign products in the form of NAG ATGM missile and Amogra 3 missile. The last one, this is a Bharat Dynamics Limited development, and it's a third-generation anti-tank guided missile that was shown at the DEF Expo 2020 in Lucknow. I'd like to speak about joint enterprise, and this is Brahmas Aerospace, and it's perhaps the most famous enterprise in Russia and India cooperation. Since 1999, a joint Indian-Russian study of the joint production of unified anti-ship missile has begun, and subsequently ship-based variants and ground-based versions of the mobile missile system were released. They began to enter service in 2007. And I was able to talk with a representative of this organization at the Naval Salon in St. Petersburg, as well as at the Max Air Show. Despite the fact that the press writes a lot about this enterprise, there is still something new to say. First of all, in 2020, an aviation version of the Brahmas missile was tested under the Air-Launched Cruise Missile Program, probably with an increased range of up to 450 kilometers and with the possibility of hitting point radio contrast ground targets. As the company's representatives noted in an interview, Brahmas has many prospects for development. For example, equipping missile with additional smart jamming systems, as well as introducing elements of extreme navigation into the rocket's algorithm, like flight with trajectory correction according to the type of terrain, and abandoning radar guidance and at the final stage. In addition, the modernization of the propulsion system and aerodynamics in the future raises the flight speed to Mach 3 to 4 instead of Mach 2,8 as it's now. In the modern configuration, the Brahmas missile is not only an illustrative example of military technical cooperation between the two countries, but also remains one of the most effective means of defeating point-to-point radio contrast targets. Moreover, some countries of Southeast Asia have already been interested in these missiles. For example, the Philippines mentioned Brahmas in the agreement, in one of the agreements with India. In addition, it was recently announced that Brahmas Aerospace will create a missile production base in the city of Lucknow. The facility will become part of a developing defense industrial zone in Uttar Pradesh, which the Indian government expects will attract investments of more than $1 billion. It's also proposed to create another missile production unit at the Jhansi node. The Uttar Pradesh Defense Corridor brings such huge investments and huge employment opportunities, Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi said. And actually, summing up, I want to say that India and Russia are developing every day in the field of missile technologies. At the same time, both bilateral cooperation and the own projects of both countries are developing. The Indian demand for Russian military products had a powerful stimulating effect on innovative processes in the Russian defense industry in the 1990s and early 2000s. And Indian orders made it possible to complete research and development on such important systems as the Brahmas, Club, and Uran missile systems. On the other hand, India itself has gained access to the most advanced Russian technologies. Thanks to joint and licensed production, India also gets the opportunity to develop its own industry, and there are also more and more employment opportunities. Thus, the relations between India and Russia in the field of military technical cooperation and missile cooperation are mutually beneficial. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Arpit, for maintaining this time limit in yourself. I think your paper will attract more such questions, which we will take later on. And I would like to just thank Gidadhubli sir, who has also said, and in one of your points you said that state cooperation is also increasing, where the states are inviting the Russian companies to work on this type of technological sharing. Thank you. Now I call my next speaker. I have Mrs. Nusrat Kozar from lovely professional university and Jalandhar, Punjab. She's going to, I hope you are there, Nusrat.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning to one and all.
Yeah, and
Good morning to one and all. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, she's going to speak on COVID-19 and India-Russia bilateral relations. Now the stage is yours. You please see that you keep yourself in 10 minutes, and so that we can start with your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for providing me this opportunity to be the part of 3 days international conference on the bilateral relationship of India and Russia. Good evening to one and all present over here. Today, Nusrat is here with the topic COVID-19 in India-Russia relations. As
Request to on your video, please.
Okay, sir.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, my topic is COVID-19 in India-Russia relations. As we all know, the relationship of India and Russia are very cordial and having good kind of mutual understanding since long. As far as the relationship is concerned, both the countries are even ideologically are very close towards each other. Their relationship has grown strength from time to time and enjoys wide support among the people. It has been observed that the bilateral partnership stands on the bedrock of mutual trust, deep-rooted historical and cultural ties, and mutually beneficial economic prospects. It is the outbreak of COVID-19 that has again put the limelight on the importance of strong Indo-Russian relationship. The outset and the consequent rapid spread of COVID-19 crisis has destroyed everyday life and led to widespread damage to both the lives and the livelihood. In this context, the second wave of coronavirus pandemic in India continued to overwhelm our health system while we cope with the shock and severity of this immense challenge. To aid India in its efforts against the pandemic, numerous countries across the world have been percipient in deploying their resources, help to ease pressure from India's healthcare system. As a close friend of India, Russia has been at the forefront in helping India tide over this current crisis by sending crucial supplies of medical equipment, medicines, vaccines to reinforce capacity for an overburdened healthcare fraternity. As good friend of India, Russia's humanitarian assistance continue to arrive in India. The Russian ambassador in India has renewed the importance of Indo-Russian strategic partnership in these crucial times and serve as a timely reminder of what joint cooperation is capable of achieving, even in the face of adversity. As we all know that both the countries have gone through some ups and downs in their relations, but these crucial times, these important times of COVID-19 and the bilateral relationships of two countries have even recently the summit between the two countries postpones. Certain kinds of mutations and false informations are also received, but India's Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson responded it by saying that both the countries' annual summit did not take place in 2020 only because of COVID-19. And very soon, both the countries will finalize it in a new pattern of this, what we can see the summit. Such denials are unlikely to entirely remove speculation about the state of bilateral relationship between the two countries. Moreover, the speculation about difficulties in the relationship is not exactly new. There has been a lot of it, especially because of comment from senior Russian officials. The bilateral ties of the two countries, that is the India and Russia, are the key pillars of India's foreign policy. Both the countries remained very close towards each other because the promotion of the national interests of one country is directly or indirectly linked towards strengthening the power and the foreign policy of other countries. India sees Russia as a long-standing and time-tested friend, and that has also played a very contributory role as far as the economic development in the security is concerned. Since the signing of the declaration in Indo-Russian strategic partnership in October 2000 and the visit of President Vladimir Putin to India, India-Russia ties have acquired qualitatively new character with enhanced level of cooperation taking place in almost all areas of the bilateral relationship, including political, security, trade, economy, defense, science, and technology, even the cultural aspect also. Even in COVID-19 pandemic, the world grappled with the impact of it. The reshaping of international system has added to the uncertainty confronting the nation state at this historical juncture. While the US-China rivalry hardly comes as a surprise, its acceleration due to the pandemic has made this bipolar dynamic the pivot around which the new world order is likely to revolve. Both the countries are important players in their own right, but none of them will occupy the top two position in the world order. Their foreign policy choices will inevitably be affected on the ongoing change in the balance of power. Impact will be far greater on the two countries because of the way their prospective relations with the United States of America and China evolved. As we all are well aware, that their bilateral relationship is free of active conflict. The repercussion of external factor can no longer be ignored or underestimated. Thus, it is very much important to mention here the effect of this development in the long-standing, special, and privileged partnership of New Delhi and Moscow. As the close relationship or the rivalry, what we can say, the United States of America and China, threaten to disrupt the order of the day, that is India and Russia remain supporter of multipolar world order. Understanding the constraints that bipolarity would impose on the foreign policy choices, this emphasizes independence in pursuit of foreign policy. However, this does not mean that the two sides are—
Ma'am, you have 3 minutes left. Please look at your
Okay, okay, ma'am. Okay. Now here is more visible than in Asia, which forms the base of rising power of China and attracting more kind of liaison towards the Russia. And there are already signs that is going to be complex undertaking that special and privileged tie between the two countries. Even if Russia does not support the concept of Indo-Pacific, the question is need to ponder over is whether alienating partner like India aid its effort towards becoming a strong Eurasian power. The above mentioned challenges need to mention that India and Russia must don their close engagement. With the opposite, the period of flux is exactly the time for the two sides to bank on their special and privileged strategic partnership. In the concluding remarks, I would like to mention here that the pandemic appears not to have had much impact on Indo-Russian relations. The relationship was showing sign of strain even before to the pandemic, mainly because both the countries are drifting toward different sides in the emerging competition between US and China. India's concern about China's behavior have made it inch closer to US and Indo-Pacific coalition, while increasing tension between Russia and West appear to be driving Moscow towards a deeper, closer partnership with Beijing. Both the countries seem particularly happy with the efforts of the tendency on their bilateral relationship. The Indo-Russian or India-Russia relationship continue to be dependent on some level of diplomatic empathy towards each other. The relationship and bilateral relationship of two countries has grown significantly over the past few years. To aid India in its effort against the pandemic, numerous countries extended support, and also Russia being the good friend of India, extended each and every kind of possible support for during this pandemic. To even the first tranche of medical assistance from Russia arrived in India in April. 22 tons comprising 20 oxygen cylinders and so many other required materials. Another Russian plane arrived in India carrying 9 tons of critical medical supplies, including number of other required materials also supplied by Russia and India, which has been widely used in the treatment of COVID-19 patient. As Russian humanitarian assistance continue in India, the Russian ambassador in India has reiterated the importance of Indo-Russian strategic partnership in these crucial times and serve as a timely reminder of what cooperation is capable of achieving the national interest of two countries. This is all about today's. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for providing me this opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for being there. For all the listeners who are listening to you, they'll be raising the questions to you later on. My next speaker is Dr. Anamika K. She's from International Institute of Health Management Research. Anamika, ma'am, please, if you are there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can I share my screen?
Of course. You'll have to tell to Sumant sir, because Sumant sir, should I permit her to share her screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have already announced.
Okay, you've already done. And
Thank you.
she's going to speak on non-communicable diseases, risk factors, tackling efforts and their trends in India and Russia. You have 10 minutes to speak. Sumant sir, she will be able to start the screen now.
Yes, I have already made the co-host.
Sir, I'm not able to share my screen.
I have already make you the co-host. You can just try.
Sir, but it's not working.
You just go to multi-variant, please. Sumant sir, can she? Can you give?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, actually,
Yes,
there is some problem actually. It's a lock, I think. Host can do that.
Host. Sir, it's host is this table.
Yes, I am just trying.
Yeah. Thank you, Yogesh. Sir, if it is taking time, we are already on 6:33. So
Just try. Yes, ma'am. Just try. Dr. Anamika, please try.
Yes, sir. Now it's working.
Oh, it's working now? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So let's get started the topic. Non-communicable disease risk factors, tackling efforts, and their trends in India and Russia.
Please put in the full screen mode.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So first we can go through the facts. NCDs are the result of combination of genetic, physiological, environmental, and behavioral factors. The main type of NCDs are cardiovascular diseases, cancer, chronic respiratory diseases, and diabetes. According to WHO report, the NCDs kill 41 million people each year, equivalent to 71% of all deaths globally. Each year, more than 15 million people die from NCDs between the age of 30 and 69 years. So we can see the CVDs, which accounts for the most NCD death, 17.9 million that is occurring annually, and it's followed by cancer, respiratory diseases, and diabetes. All these diseases are driven by the risk factors, that is behavioral risk factors and metabolic risk factors, we can see here. But the harmful use of alcohol, which is the most leading risk factor for the disease burden in populations worldwide. So let's discuss about the alcohol consumption. So total alcohol consumption per capita in the world population over 15 years of age rose from 5.5 liters of pure alcohol in 2005 to 6.4 liters in 2010, and that level still remaining in 2016. And the volume and pattern of alcohol consumption is increase the risk of heart diseases, cancer, and liver diseases. So here we can see in India, nearly 5.8 million people die from NCDs in every year. In other words, 1 in 4 Indian has a risk of dying from NCDs before they reach the age of 70. Here, the data, we can see the CVDs accounts for the most leading factor for the NCD death, which is 30%. And here the alcohol consumption pattern in India from 1960 to 2016, it's gradually increasing. And also they are giving the comparing the alcohol consumption in 2010 and 2016. In that it is given that it shows increasing from 2010 to 16, and also comparing the males and females alcohol usage. And this is the figure of state and district-wise comparison of alcohol use in men and women as per NFHS 4. The top map shows the average consumption of the alcohol, and the dark red shades denotes the higher consumption states in India. The state alcohol consumption by both men and women in high in northeastern states. In addition, alcohol usage by women, men in high in South and North India. So these are the policies in India for the alcohol consumption. The national monitoring system working, and they are accounting taxes for the beer, wine, and spirit. But here we have no national government support for the community action. The next is National Action Plan and Monitoring Framework for Prevention and Control of NCDs. According to the WHO's Global Action Plan for Prevention and Control of NCDs, India is committed to implement a national action plan and take necessary steps to meet the objective of reducing global premature death from NCDs by 2025. So India will have 9 targets, and the 10th target to address the household air pollution, which is a major health hazard due to the burning of solid biomass fuel. So these are the national targets, 10 targets. And the other national program to address the CDs in India is National Program for Prevention and Control of Cancer, Diabetes, Cardiovascular Diseases, and Stroke, which was launched in 2010, and National Tobacco Control Program, National Mental Health Program, National Program for Health Care of the Elderly, National Program for Palliative Care, and Food Safety and Standard Authority of India proposed a tax and advertisement ban on unhealthy foods. These are some of the opportunities for these actions. Inclusion of NPCD, CS, and NTCP and other NCD programs into the NHM provides an opportunity for harmonizing effort and better utilization of resources. Global advocacies and commitments are now increasingly focusing on NCDs, and National Health Policy 2017 has included strategies for prevention and control of NCDs in an effective way. But there are also challenges also there. So let's go through that. India needs to invest a suitable surveillance system to monitor the changing.
Ma'am, I could ask Nusrat ma'am to put off. Sorry, please, I'm disturbing you. Nusrat ma'am, please put off your videos. Put off your videos immediately, please. Sorry for the interruption.
It's okay, ma'am.
You can continue. Namika, continue with your.
Oh, yes, ma'am. So next is collaboration with ministries, multi-sectoral approach, and strengthening of referral system, along with involvement, training of grassroots level workers who efficiently implement are needed. And currently a major proportion of healthcare is being provided by the private sector. So public-private partnership should be strengthened. And the deficiencies in funding for healthcare services is also challenges for India. When we coming to the Russia, NCDs are also the leading cause of mortality and disability and are accountable for 87% of all death in the country. It is estimated that an average person in Russia has 25% risk of dying prematurely from the NCDs. And these are the Russia's alcohol usage pattern. You can see from 1960 to 2050, it's irregularly varying. But when we comparing the 2010 and 2016 data, we can see a slight decrease from that. And a lot of alcohol abstainers also we can see in this data. And these are the policies in Russian Federation. There is also taxes for that. National monitoring system is working, and there is also regulation for minimum age for the alcohol sales and alcohol sales, which was not in India. It was subnational, and also national government support for community action is also there. The WHO and UNDPs, which conducted an initial data collection mission in Russian Federation to develop an investment case on NCDs. As a part of that, in recent years, Russia has made important changes in tobacco control policy, banning smoking in public places, prohibiting advertising, promotion, and sponsorship of tobacco products. As a result of that, the prevalence of smoking is estimated to have decreased by an impressive 21% in the past 7 years. And prevalence of exposure to second-hand smoke decreased by 27%, and the physical activity, which was increased to 18%, as compared to the past 4 years. And as a part of that, they also implemented most cost-effective intervention packages within Russian Federation. That was 4 policy packages to reduce the prevalence of behavioral risk factors, that is tobacco use, harmful use of alcohol, physical inactivity, excessive salt consumption. And also 1 clinical intervention packages to address the cardiovascular diseases and diabetes. A special component of mental health will be included in the next phase of analysis. So next is RUSC audit. The audit means alcohol use disorders identification test, which was developed by WHO in 1989. But in Russia, it was translated to Russian language in 1997. In 2017, new edition of guidance of NCDs was issued. As a part of that, the cage test, which means cut annoyed guilty eye, it's an easy screening tool for alcohol usage, which was replaced by audit. And because it's highly reliability in detection and prevention within PSC through the screening. So full version of Russian audit consists of 10 questions. The first domain, which contains the alcohol use, 4 to 6 contains the symptoms of alcohol dependence, and third domains contain the adverse consequences of harmful alcohol use. So today, Russia, the audit opened up the opportunities for scaling up the implementation of SBI in PSCs in Russian Federation also. So today, Russia Federation per capita consumption is lower than that of several Western European countries. So Russia is leading the way towards that. Thank you all. Actually, it's all about my presentation.
Thank you for such an interesting paper. And I think all my dignitaries will agree that beside the pharmaceutical company, what we call as good human resource development, we will be able to work it out together. Okay, now I have my next speaker with me, my next speaker with me is Apla Ghosh. She's from Jadhav University. And I hope you are there, Apla ma'am, to take up this.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are easily audible. Just wait. Are you planning to share your screen with us? Or
no, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, I'm not sharing my screen.
Then I think what we will do is that, Apla ma'am, you are there with us. And your topic is in India-Russia domestic and bilateral cooperation. And you're from Jadhav University. Please, you can start with your presentation, yes, please. And ma'am, keep it in mind, we have 10 minutes because we are almost 1 hour late. I hope Deshpande sir, we can give her 10 minutes full for her to take a presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll just start my presentation. So I'll keep it very brief. So introduction, as in, I'll just give a brief overview of what India-Russia relation was prior to, like during the USSR period. Trust and mutual interests are at the base of India's relationship with the former Soviet Union.
हे चालू आहे पण बॅटरी लो झाली हो म्हणून मी ते लावायला.
Ma'am, somebody's microphone is on.
I think sir has taken care of it. Sir has taken care of it.
Okay.
That nobody disturbs. Sumant, I hope.
Yes, I'll continue. Starting in the 1950s, India received from the Soviet Union generous assistance for its industrialization. Support of Soviet Union has been behind India's space technological and nuclear advancement. Military technical cooperation has indeed been at the center of this bilateral relationship, and the two countries have remained friends even during the turbulent decade of the 90s and later. Now, India-Russia ties in the post-Soviet era have acquired a qualitatively new character with enhanced levels of cooperation in almost all areas of the bilateral relationship. Both Russia and India support the concept of a multipolar world. Russia-India defense relationship has begun to move beyond the buyer-seller model to a more cooperative relationship with joint research, design, and production. There has been a marked improvement in the Indo-Russian relations that had suffered a setback after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Russian and Indian interests converge with respect to the global foreign policy landscape, where both seek a rise in their profile. Russia's foreign relations therefore need a stable partner like India. The bilateral relationship with Russia forms the cornerstone of India's foreign policy and is likely to continue so despite occasional concerns. Now, coming to strategic relations, India and Russia shared decades of close linkages at the highest levels during the Soviet era. The tumult of the immediate post-Soviet years, however, reverberated through Indo-Russia relationship as well, as the newly established Russian Federation sought to rebuild its foreign policy. Both countries therefore were occupied with domestic priorities while adjusting to a changed world order with US as the sole superpower. Even so, India and Russia both made efforts to revive their relationship. In 1993, they signed a treaty of friendship and cooperation, and a year later, they followed it up with a military technical cooperation agreement. The rise, modernization, and transformation. Russia has shown complete understanding of India's position on cross-border terrorism in Kashmir. In response, India continually expresses support for what it sees as Russia's protection of its territorial integrity and constitutional order. Relations with Russia also have to be set against the broader strategic landscape of India's security issues and geopolitical priorities. Forming better ties to its Eurasian ally is crucial in the context of India's struggle to forge relations with its neighbors and its quest for a firmer diplomatic foothold in the region. Cooperation in other sectors is close and well-intentioned but unenergetic. India and Russia have rarely broken new diplomatic ground in their interactions since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, with the possible exception of a civil nuclear agreement in 2009. The annual summits that have taken place since the two countries inaugurated the strategic relationship in 2000 have produced uneven results. A framework of India-Russia strategic cooperation in this space already exists. This was seen as the linchpin of harmonizing the two countries' strategic outlook. It is therefore essential to continue to strive for congruence. What can possibly bridge the gap are both nations' similar but as yet parallel visions of a stable security architecture and shared concerns over hegemonism. Now, moving on to economic relations, the failure of Russia and India to quickly expand their volume of trade against the background of a rapidly growing commercial relation with other strategic partners, especially the influx of cheap mass-produced goods from China into both, has been the leitmotif of every bilateral summit since the early 1990s. Both countries realize that there is vast potential for further increase in their volume of trade and investment, given the size of the two economies. Indo-Russian trade has shown an overall modest increase over the past 2 decades, except for the years 2008 to 2009. However, this increase and the volume of trade overall place India and Russia nowhere near either country's most important commercial partners. India is Russia's 10th largest trading partner, accounting for 1.4% of Russia's total trade, while Russia, on the other hand, is India's 29th, making up for just 0.97% of India's total trade. The Russian-Indian Forum on Trade and Investment has been held annually since 2007 in Delhi, and the India-Russia Chamber of Commerce, created the same year, makes introductions between companies from both countries. Some 65 firms are now members, but mostly from the Indian side. The strategic business dialogue that has been held twice so far at the annual SPIEF summit appears to be a most effective forum due to its focus on discussing specific deals. While this is a good focus, it means that by their very nature, these organizations will be moving relatively slowly. Therefore, the bilateral trade would benefit from the introduction of a new mechanism that would work alongside or in cooperation with the ones that are already in place. Now, moving on to India-Russia domestic developments, I'm putting special emphasis on the Afghanistan crisis. 20 years ago, when the US had just begun its operation in Afghanistan, Russia and India were staunch partners in the fight against terrorism, and the common cause was pulling together their approaches on the Afghan crisis. Both sides stressed that there could be no place for elements of the Taliban in any future government. That was the agenda of the bilateral statement issued in November 2001. Since then, India and Russia's roads in Afghanistan parted and the convergence of views have disappeared. By establishing ties with the grouping, Moscow not only gained more elbow room for its diplomacy over the Afghan settlement, but also provided Taliban itself with some leeway and contributed to its international legitimization. The unfortunate side effect of the tie-up with Pakistan and the Taliban has been a discord of regional visions with India, who has been unfailingly counting on the Kabul regime. As the Afghan crisis enters into a new stage, Russia and India find themselves on different sides of the conflict. Russia has emerged as a vocal advocate of Taliban's political demands and has invested a lot to bringing the grouping in different diplomatic formats on Afghan settlement. India, in its turn, has consistently backed the Ashraf Ghani government and has not considered an engagement with the Taliban yet. Russia's trust in Taliban is premised on several assumptions stemming from informal promises given by the group's representatives during their talks. Firstly, Russian officialdom conceives that the Taliban have changed and will not return policies from the previous power control period. Second, the Taliban supposedly acted against Islamic State, whose activities may be detrimental to Central Asian states and whose militants may infiltrate Russia as well. Finally, the group is believed to be focused on domestic affairs and is not expected to cross the Afghan borders. The Taliban a priori cannot guarantee that religious extremism and terrorism will not spread over the region. A Taliban that is gaining an overwhelming control over territories plus international recognition will unlikely be inclined to make any concessions at an intra-Afghan dialogue. They may well change their rhetoric and go back on their promises. Although Russia appears to bet more on Taliban's ultimate victory, it acknowledges that the end of this war may drift into the beginning of a new one. A sharp shift in Afghan equilibrium, therefore, may provoke both our countries into realigning approaches and opt for a closer interaction in order to safeguard interests in the never-ending circles of war. Now, to conclude, some pointers towards revitalizing India-Russia relations. India and Russia continue to share a common strategic rationale for their relationship. Apart from bilateral synergies, the two are members of various bilateral organizations where avenues for cooperation on issues of mutual importance exist. There is also need for cooperation in areas like counterterrorism, cybersecurity, the Afghanistan conflict, outer space, and climate change. India would do well to take steps to shore up its relations with Russia to prevent it from becoming more dependent than it already is on China. At the same time, Russia would also benefit from diversifying its relations across the region, including India, so as to prevent its pivot to Asia becoming a pivot to China. A number of measures along several key parameters are needed to improve the bilateral relationship between India and China. Any effort should involve significant political will with the understanding that Russia and India both stand to benefit from a vigorous strategic partnership. These pointers are as follows. Russia should continue being India's top partner on nuclear energy development. There is need to focus on increasing trade and investment ties between India and Russia. India must attract Russian investors to tap the vast opportunities in India's infrastructure space. There should be a reorientation of the Russian military defense complex with centers of excellence in research and development in Russia and India, but with manufacturing increasingly outsourced to India. India and Russia should work on several new areas of cooperation, which can range from deep sea exploration to building knowledge-based economies based on science and technology, innovation, people-to-people contacts, etc. Above all, the push to act far east allows India to demonstrate its commitment to an area of concern for Moscow. Counterterrorism is another area where both countries find a convergence of interest. Both countries strongly condemned terrorism in all its forms, stressing the need for an effective global effort in dealing with the terrorist menace. India and Russia should thus also share concerns about the aggravation of the security situation in Afghanistan. India and Russia's relationship cannot flourish.
Look at the time. We just have
Yes. India and Russia's relationship cannot flourish on defense and historical linkages alone. With systemic changes underway in international relations, new dimensions of cooperation need to be found to build a strong economic and strategic partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Apna. Sir, I think we have some 10 minutes to open the questions on this, or
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. I think before we put the floor for the questions, I would like to just end with a note that being a chairperson, my due respect to all the dignitaries, we had 6 papers, and all the paper was with a view that both the countries have to maintain their relationships. We just not only talked about strategic relationships and the relationships which may start with the space exploration, nuclear research, but the hope that each one of them have taken a different perspective, where we talked about health industry. Here I would like to especially ask the dignitaries to look into it, that it is not only the pharmaceutical, but looking into the role which youth can play together to bring both the countries together on the front of health. And the second point, which one of my speakers highlighted, Anamika especially said, and Saira also pointed out, that the best part of this was that we have got cultural ties. Along with the cultural ties, the young ones of both the countries are coming together with the religious unity also. So you find out reflections of language, different type of languages which are spoken in that country. So one of the way which is unified factor, which is the diaspora, you find out the unified factor there is that India maintains the diversity with unity. So we always say unity in diversity. So we look forward that partnership of these countries will move from not only science and exploration, but to other territories also. Thanks to my speakers. Now we can take up the questions if any questions have come. Deshpande sir, who would like to take the questions? Sir, we can ask the speakers to answer.
Yes. Any audience you want to ask any question to panelists? Floor is open now.
Any questions are coming in the chat or anywhere? I cannot see any questions there.
One question coming from Dr. Yogesh.
Yes.
Any part between Indo-Russian military sector regarding cyberspace security? I think the
Sir,
question
ask him that the question is for Arthur, or who visited.
I think the question for Dr. Dilip.
Yeah. Dilip Raj sir, please unmute yourself and get the question.
Yeah, thank you. Like I mentioned earlier, there is very limited sort of arrangements that are existing right now between India and Russia specific to cybersecurity. And there is no formal agreement between the two countries' armed forces for any sort of exchange on cybersecurity specifically. But unofficially, there are a few measures that are taking place between the two countries' militaries. But formally, there is nothing, for instance, to conduct any joint exercise. Unlike in the conventional domain, there is no formal arrangement to conduct joint exercise in the cybersecurity sector. But hopefully, with the release of the National Cybersecurity Strategy 2021 by the end of this year, we can see this scene shifting, and we can hope and believe that this will change. This will transform, and there will be a formal setting up between the two militaries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I don't see any question on the chat, but we can, Saira ma'am, take a question. Saira, can you take a question right now? Sumant sir, can I put a question to Saira?
Hello.
Yeah, Sarah, of course, you just said that the ISKCON followers are increasing, and we see them that on the YouTube, they have large number of programs about Krishna consciousness and awareness. Are they only textual in nature, or it is being implemented along with that are believing that is it a threat towards any other religion which dominates them, or like in any part of the world, we start saying that these countries, youth is moving on towards finding peace or meditation or yoga. Is it like that, or chanting? This is what.
Ma'am, as far as I have researched, it's that it's with the influence of these particular community and Itivan Swamis migrating towards Russia that they got influenced with this idea of Hinduism, and apart from that, I couldn't find any news as creating a threat towards any other religion.
So it means it is closely associated with Hinduism, because recently they have started saying that Hindutva is coming as a Hindu phobia also. I hope that impact is not being seen in this part of Russia.
Can you type it in the chat box, ma'am?
Yeah, I'll repeat it loudly, that I hope it is not being taken up as Hindutva. It is not Hindu phobia there, or it is related only to certain ways of life which the youngsters are implementing it, attached to a school of thought. Is it ideologically based? I hope I'm clear, Saira. I hope I'm clear.
It would be nice if you type it in the chat box so
Okay,
that
I'll do that. Sumant sir, you can take the next question. I'll type it.
Okay.
I'll type. Sir, you can take the next question.
Somebody has asked, anybody want to ask question, please?
So then, Sumant sir, can we take permission from the chair, and because we are almost crossing the time. So.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, that's
we are 1 hour late. Yeah,
we are yes, ma'am. Actually,
yeah, so
we are already late. Thank you very much. Very interesting presentations. Our young students, particularly the young research scholars, have presented a wide range of topics, truly very meaningful topics. And thank you, Dr. Dilip Raj, Mr. Arthur, and our Russian friend, Mr. Arthur Maulik, and Saira Ges, and also Miss Nusrat, Dr. Yes, Dr. Anamika, and Apna Ghosh. All have made a very good presentation. We are planning to bring out a special volume for this youth conference, particularly the thoughts and minds of our young research scholars. If anybody is interested to develop into a good paper, then we will try to publish it through our research journal.